Chroma TV so and also so Wutina and China or Mangana Yabo Busiakesi IMF Ehona and Tia Evan say in the meeting Kessie to Marco so press conference Kessie to Marco so Ghana a finance ministry need now and the IMF so a board now it will share in Komo for Ghana is 7 now a finance minister Kasa Ken Furata so to move to the semi to the Mayanko put in some I can Furata so to the Sansway IMF pay for so they to move to Fire Ghana is 7 so.
The government has also made progress in its debt restructuring strategy, so another big plank underpinning the fund-supported program. And in particular, the government successfully completed its domestic debt restructuring over the summer. Monetary policy has been appropriately tightened. Wide-ranging reforms are being implemented to bolster domestic revenues, improve spending efficiency, strengthen public financial management, strengthen debt management, enhance transparency, and tackle financial challenges in the energy and cocoa sector. The authorities' economic reforms also include measures to ensure financial stability and also to make the environment more conducive to private sector investment and job creation. Now, not all the challenges are going to be solved overnight, and there is still a lot of work ahead. But what makes us very optimistic is that these actions are already generating positive results. Growth in 2023 has proven more resilient than what we were initially envisaging. Inflation has declined. The fiscal and external positions have improved. International reserves are increasing again, and exchange rate volatility has significantly reduced. Let me stop here. I'll be happy to take questions, but before I turn to the Honourable Minister, I would like to thank him and Bank of Ghana Governor Addison and their teams, as well as representatives from various government agencies and as well as non-governmental stakeholders we have met over the course of the mission, and frankly over the past year, for very open and constructive engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. And that is a view of the fund at the end of the first review. I'm sure our colleagues will have some questions later to interrogate some of the points that you have made. But I want to go to the Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, for some remarks. Before I come to you, Ken. Governor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Information, Honorable Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, the IMF Mission Chief, Stefan Rude, distinguished directors of the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first start by thanking the entire IMF team for the constructive engagement during the past 2 weeks on all issues bordering on fiscal policy, monetary policy, and structural reforms. Indeed, it has been a very comprehensive and collaborative work between the government side and the IMF, and this has made the 2-week mission very successful and fruitful, leading to the staff-level agreement today. We have all established that the very decisive measures put in place by the government and the Bank of Ghana have started yielding results, signaling a faster than expected turnaround, which needs to be sustained as we reset the economy. More specifically, non-food inflation has dropped significantly by 19 percentage points. Food inflation has also come down by about 8 percentage points. Core inflation, which measures underlying inflation, is also decelerating at a fast pace. From the beginning of the year to date, the Bank of Ghana has built reserves of about 650 million US dollars instead of the programmed drawdown of 98 million US dollars. And this has been boosted by the innovative Gold for Reserves program. And as a result, we have seen relative stability in the exchange rate, depreciating by only 2.5% between February and now. It is therefore very important to sustain this strong performance and consolidate the gains we are seeing. Looking ahead, the Bank of Ghana will continue to maintain a tight monetary policy stance until it is confident that inflation is firmly anchored and aligned with the disinflation path agreed in the program. There would be challenges and difficulties as we work towards sustaining these gains, but we remain focused and committed to the reforms and prudent policies to ensure the full benefits of this program are achieved. I thank you very much.
Governor, thank you for the remarks. And now I would move to the Honorable Minister responsible for Finance, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta.
Thank you very much, Kojo, and really good morning to you all. Kojo, thanks for being here with us. Governor and the deputies, great Stefan and the team, thank you very much. And certainly, if I have my own powers, I'll ask us to clap for the technical staff of the bank and the ministry and the team. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen of the media, and really also to thank you for honoring this invitation. The program, as you know, started on 17th May 2023 and approved then a 36-month IMF program under the ECF, which was $3 billion. And really to also thank the fund staff. When you look at a country like Egypt, also at 3 billion of a much bigger GDP, and Tunisia at about 1 point something, you realize the extent to which the fund staff worked to give us this very needed space. And also the negotiations which ended up with front loading, such that, God willing, by November, we actually would then have released 1.2 billion of the 3 billion effective in that. So truly a lot of work has gone into this to give Ghana the opportunity to stabilize much faster. And this all hinged on the fact that Cabinet moved us very quickly to prepare the PC-PEC program, which then underpinned the work that the fund also had to do. So I'm pleased to announce that the progress that we sought to achieve is very, very much on course. The stability that the Ghanaian economy was very much in need of has been achieved. We said we have turned the corner. And the major economic indicators such as inflation, as Governor mentioned, the exchange rate continues to drop and stabilize, and there's confidence returning in the economy. I'm happy to confirm that Ghana has just completed its first review of the IMF program, as Stefan has announced. The first review, had key deliverables, including the 6 performance criteria, the 3 indicative targets, and the 3 structural benchmarks that were due at the end of June 2023. So you can imagine the work and the anxiety, the speed with which people have worked, even as we also try to manage demonstrations in the middle of that. But we are all good and we are in good order. So assessment of the progress at meeting program targets also due by end September 2023 and end December 2023, and discussions on the policy framework for 2024. So while we await the fund staff to present the full assessment of the targets, I think we are now in a very strong position to look ahead into the future and give all stakeholders the confidence that is needed to support the country. So that's the backdrop. But in all of this, as you know, we really want to give gratitude to the Almighty God for providing the needed guidance to both the government, the fund staff, and all of us to be here today. And we are very, very appreciative of what the Lord is doing for us in our economy as a country, and we believe He will perfect it to its logical conclusion. Let me also thank His Excellency the President for his continued leadership and direction through this period, and also the Vice President. And this is not really hackneyed. Cabinet has had to meet out of turn. We've had to had various EMT meetings, and so their engagement has been very important, and a commitment to make sure that the President himself is driving it with the energy that is required in the circumstance. And we can't take it for granted, because we do have a clear view of what's happened in Chad or Zambia or Sri Lanka, Egypt, Tunisia, and we know that something different is happening here. And therefore the leadership of all of these people we've mentioned are important. Personal appreciation to the IMF in general, and particularly also to the Managing Director Kristalina, Stephen Roder, IMF Mission Chief to Ghana, and his team, and for their continued commitment to Ghana as we work to navigate our temporary crisis. I also have the really would like to thank the sector ministers and staff of the MMDAs, the CSO financial sector, and the private sector players whose consultation during this process succeeded in reaching this positive outcome. And for me here, I'll say my Linus blankets of Minister Amin and Deputy Minister Abina and Deputy Minister John. And it's beyond the work they do, it's also they being parliamentarians, and if I feel I'm overwhelmed, I wonder how they manage to do both. So sincere thanks for that support, the sacrifice and the hard work that is being shown at the ministry. So a lot of hard work indeed has gone into it, and it's a really significant milestone. I believe we might be sort of in recent times the fastest to get to this first review in 5 months, and as we steadily make progress toward the approval of the first review, there's still some work to be done through November, and I'm sure we'll rise up to that occasion. But we have also, beyond the quantitative performance criteria, the indicative targets, the structural benchmarks, also the turnaround strategy for Cocoa Board, and in addition, as Stefan mentioned, the issue of social intervention is important, and so the strategy to make sure that the LEAP program, capitation, etc., are truly anchored and are indexed to make sure that their lot does not get worse. And we also have agreed to increase this to about 2.5 million people in short order, moving from 350,000 households to 450,000 households going forward. So a strategy on reviewing the earmark funds, we have that in the medium-term revenue strategy. Performance for non-oil, Stefan mentioned, have been impressive this first half of the year, and we should continue with that. We also have an affirmative action bill, social protection bill, EPA bill, all approved, so that the empowerment of women and protecting the poor and vulnerable will be front and center to the work that we are doing. So it's important to note, though, that the SLA is only one aspect of the approval process. We have a few milestones to cross to secure board approval between now and November. Notably, of course, is the agreement and memorandum of understanding that we need to secure with the Official Creditor Committee, the Paris Club. We are optimistic that once again our bilateral creditors will deliver the MOU in time for our board in November as we continue our engagements, which will continue to be positive. So let me also take the opportunity to thank the OCC for delivering the financial assurances in May, which has brought us this far. We also are making progress in our engagements with the Eurobond holders and commercial lenders, and we hope to pursue this in our trip to Marrakesh for the World Bank annual meetings, and hopefully by year end we should be able to secure that. So generally the macroeconomic environment continues to show strong signs of stability and recovery as government implements the IMF supported PCPEC program. Based on available data from year to date, GDP growth has rebounded strongly, averaging 3.2% in the first 2 quarters, compared to 3% the same period in 2022, mainly on the back of growth in services and in agriculture. The average growth of 3.2% for Q1 and Q2 is higher than the 2023 revised growth target of 1.5%. So we are doing well. The latest price development in August 2023 also indicated a fall in headline inflation after consecutive upward trends since May 2023, and it dropped to 40.1%. And as the governor mentioned, we are looking very strongly at this to ensure that food prices come down. The Ghana cedi has remained relatively stable from the beginning of the year to date, depreciating cumulatively by 23.5% over that period. But that really is essentially a huge jump in January, and basically since February to date, about 2.5%, creating the type of stability that is required for businesses and for confidence to be built up. So the depreciation over this period, February to now, is only 3.1%. On the fiscal front, the primary balance on commitment basis for half year 2023 was a surplus of about 2 billion compared to a target of 4 billion, driven in part by strong non-oil domestic revenues and rationalized spending. Non-oil public revenue for the period was 50.1 billion compared to program target of 49.8 billion. The MPC, of course, governor maintained the 30%, and international crude prices, had its own effect. Adjustment for utility tariffs remain a risk that we are going to maintain. And as you know, we spend considerable amounts on the IPPs, but to ensure that energy is not a problem, the lights have been kept on and there are no queues. Gross international reserves continue to be built up, as the governor has mentioned. On the debt restructuring front, we successfully concluded the remaining 3 crucial debt exchanges, marking the completion of the comprehensive Ghana domestic debt exchange program. And let me reiterate, marking the completion of the Ghana domestic debt exchange program. I think we've done extremely well. The 3 concluded debt exchanges included the US denominated local bonds of $742 million. Participation rate was 91.7%. The cocoa bills, 7.7 billion, with participation rate of 97.4%. And of course, the pension funds holdings of treasury bonds of 29.6 billion, with a participation rate of 95.3%. And really would like to thank Labour and the trustees for very cordial relationship to get to a good end. We also, as you know, on August 22nd, settled some 2.5 billion of coupon payments, the largest in our history. An additional 2 billion was also paid to the pension trustees, and 274 million on Esla and Dachi on 5th September 2023. Looking forward to be ready in February next year for the second payment. As I mentioned, paid almost $500 million to IPPs and fuel suppliers as support from the Ministry of Finance to keep our lights on. So notwithstanding all of these uncertainties around the global economic recovery, we are confident that we are on the right path and therefore optimistic about the future. Already the economy is responding positively, strongly to the news of the GOG and IMF reaching an SLA agreement for the first review, and we are eager to leverage this momentum to the very moment when the fund and the executive board approves the first review in November. We are also grateful to the IMF, the World Bank, the FDB, other multilateral lenders, all our bilateral partners, and the good people of Ghana for their support as we make steady and strong progress out of this temporary difficulty, and through which many countries around the world are also working their way forward. But I think a distinct part of the Ghana program is whether we can continue as a nation to speak one language, because it is clear that when we work together, there's nothing that we imagine that will not be possible. And that's really the encouragement that I have. This is a moment in our history where we must strive to do what is good for each other, and we are confident that we will get there. New things are being done. Even in this difficult wilderness, we can see that our rains, our rivers are doing well, and that the palms that we have would also thrive. So we are confident that we will work this through together as one people, restore our macroeconomic stability, promote robust and inclusive growth. We have done it before, we can do it again, and really what the Lord has started, I think He would perfect, as in Philippines 1:6. Thank you very much indeed.
Honourable Minister, thank you for your remarks. Colleagues, I'm going to come to you for some questions just to put our conversation in perspective. Between the fund and the finance ministry about two sets of issues, and I'm reading from the fund's statement, part of which were also amplified by Stefan. One says that there's been strong policy and reform commitment under the program and it is bearing fruit. Two, that the signs of economic stabilization are emerging. Three, that the growth already happening in 2023 is proving more resilient than initially envisaged. And four, that the fiscal and external positions have improved. Also makes a fifth point that there is exchange rate stability that you are observing. There you find a lot of them in the minister's submissions as well. And then minister also outlines the fact that the criteria that was set out for this first review, we have performed on that criteria very, very strongly. Net international reserves, primary balance, the ceiling on non-concessional borrowing, zero central bank financing, and zero collateralization, as well as the indicative targets, non-oil public revenue, social protection spending, and non-accumulation of payables on net basis. And then the structural benchmarks, we're also doing very well there. And in addition to that, the cocoa board turnaround strategy. Governor also mentions that while food inflation, etc., may be coming down, the bank has also got their eye on their inflation targeting, and if they have to continue with very policies to help out, they won't be afraid to do so. It's in this context that we are going to take our questions on these matters that we have discussed. So please give me a wave.